Welcome back to Lessons from the Front, and today we're heading into the Pacific Theatre to take a closer look at one of the most iconic and feared support weapons of the Japanese forces in World War II, the Type 92 heavy machine gun. If you enjoy historically grounded wargaming content like this, mixing real-world context with tabletop gameplay, please make sure to like the video and subscribe if you would like to, and then let me know in the comments below how you would use the MMGs in your own Japanese forces. In this video, I'll be showcasing the 4 MMG teams I've painted up for bolt action, 2 for the Imperial Japanese Army and 2 for the Special Naval Landing Forces. I'll also show you a bit of kit bashing I did to give one of my SNLF teams a more distinct look. After that, we'll break down exactly how the MMG performs in the game, what you get for the points and whether it's worth taking in your lists. And I'll also be joined by Richard for a quick chat on how to get the most out of your MMG teams on the tabletop. But first, let's ground things in some history. Nicknamed the Woodpecker by the Allied troops because of its distinctive steady firing sound, the Type 92 was chambered in 7.7mm and served as the standard heavy machine gun of the Imperial Japanese Army. What really set this weapon apart wasn't just its reputation, but also the way it was built and used in the field. The Type 92 had a relatively slow cyclic rate of fire, typically around 450 to 500 rounds per minute. That might sound low compared to other machine guns of the period, but it was actually deliberate. This slow rate of fire improved accuracy, reduced barrel wear, and made it far more controllable during sustained fire. In terms of weight, the gun itself came in at around 25 kilograms, and once you factor in the tripod and accessories, you're looking at a system pushing closer to 50 kilograms. So this wasn't a weapon you picked up and repositioned very easily in the middle of a firefight. Instead, it was designed for stability and sustained fire from prepared positions. Crews were typically operated in teams of 3 to 5 men, with roles including the gunner, assistant gunner, and ammunition bearers. Ammunition was fed via 30-round strip clips, which required careful handling but allowed for a consistent rate of fire when well-drilled crews were in action. Because of its weight and configuration, the Type 92 wasn't especially maneuverable. It was usually transported in parts, broken down and carried by the crew, or moved using pack animals in more difficult terrain. Once deployed though, it was incredibly effective in defensive roles, particularly in jungle or fortified positions where fields of fire could be controlled. Now, while the Imperial Japanese Army made widespread use of the Type 92, things got a little bit more nuanced when looking at the Special Naval Landing Forces, the SNLF. From what I've learned, and credit here to my friend Zul for pointing this out, the SNLF didn't rely as heavily on the Type 92 as the Army did, and often preferred other machine gun designs that better suited their operational style. That said, if you're building an SNLF force using Warlord Games as plastic kits, you'll quickly notice that those alternatives aren't actually included in the sprues. So for this project, I've gone with the Type 92 for both my Imperial Army and the SNLF teams. A bit of a practical compromise that still looks great on the table. Before we get some experienced input from Richard on how to use the MMGs effectively in bolt action, let me quickly show you one of my SNLF MMG bases where I tried a little bit of kit bashing. Having shared the new Japanese box with my mate Wei Lun, my goal was to build a second plastic IJA MMG team to go alongside the metal team I already had, giving me a full MMG platoon for my IJA army. At the same time, I wanted to create a comparable team for my SNLF force, which up until now had only really consisted of infantry. But I didn't want just another static gun team. I wanted something that looked a little bit different, a bit more dynamic. So I had the idea of modeling the team on the move, with each crew member holding one of the tripod's legs, inspired by a couple of old reference photos like the ones you can see here. To make that work, I carefully selected arms and hand positions that would line up naturally, and then cut away parts of the tripod to sell the illusion that the weapon was being carried between the 3 men. It took a bit of trial and error, but I think it comes together rather nicely as a little diorama. What do you guys think? I also like the idea that it could double up as a visual cue in the game, representing that the team had just moved, especially since MMGs in bolt action can't move and fire in the same turn. Alright, now let's hear from Richard, an experienced player and a great coach of the game, and get his take on how to really make MMGs work on the tabletop. Over to you, Richard.
I've got three broad ranges of thinking. One is what are their strengths and weaknesses? Secondly, how do you use them in a game? And thirdly, just some overall reflections on my thoughts on medium machine guns overall. So let's think about their strengths and weaknesses. Their strengths are specifically you're getting 6 shots in a unit that can shoot at fairly extensive range, 36 inches, which if you deploy them correctly gives you good coverage of the table. The other big advantage they've got is they can actually move. They can move into cover and take cover versus artillery, which if you're deploying cover cannot move away from, and you cannot move into once you've started the game. I think their prime weakness, though, is that they can't move and shoot. This is therefore limiting. So if you have to move them for some reason, you don't actually have their shooting available to you for that turn. How do I use medium machine guns? I think the best part is denying area to the enemy. So you put them in ambush, ideally, covering a line of approach that you really don't want the enemy to come down. So this prevents them, specifically the infantry. Even better if you've got them supported by some anti-tank, say a bazooka or anti-tank gun, covering that flank or that area. The enemy will definitely not want to be approaching you. For example, if they came with an armored transport, they'd be threatened by the anti-tank, and if the anti-tank did cause them to debus, they would then get shot at by the medium machine gun. And remember, you can ambush when people debus from vehicles. So that's the one area I'd use them. The second one is in fog of war specifically. If I want to protect my rear, I'd angle them at some position that they could shoot at anyone who was coming in from the side I really didn't want somebody coming in on. Let's say I've got the mortars behind a forest, and I want to protect them from some rogue element that decides to come on and take them out. I'd use the machine guns to cover that back for me. The last use of them is potentially as inexperienced. You're getting 35 points for a unit that puts out 6 shots. The big advantage of this is it's cheap. For about 195 points, you can field 5 of them plus an inexperienced officer putting out 30 shots. Yeah, you are only hitting on 5s, but that's a lot of firepower for relatively cheap. So that's potentially how I'd use a medium machine gun. One other weakness, they only have a 45-degree arc of fire. So if you do place them incorrectly, they're going to be pointing in the wrong direction. You can, when you activate them, move them as in rotate them. But then, of course, you're going to take the penalty for movement. But you can't physically move them away from their spot. Last but not least, my reflections. I think there are better options in the game than the medium machine gun. One that jumps straight to mind is a light flak gun. It'll cost you 40 points regular with a gun shield. I use them a lot in my German army. I use the Polstons with my British Airborne Army without the gun shield, 35 points regular. You got the rotating platform, so you haven't got the negative of being able to move and shoot in terms of rotating. You, of course, have the negative of the artillery. You can't move into cover, etc., etc. The other big negative is for 50 points regular, I can buy 5 riflemen. They each give me 1 shot. They shoot at up to 30 inches because they can move 6 and then shoot 24. So they're giving me 1 shot less for the same points, but I can move and shoot. And if I lose 1 or 2, I'm still an effective fighting unit. So they probably 2 of the reasons you might not want to take a medium machine gun. But then again, whenever I've seen a medium machine gun on the table and look at how people play, it becomes a threat. I often find people then spend quite a bit of time to take it out because they know how damaging it can be. And people have played them well and put them into their armies. And I'm not against using them. I generally at the moment don't take them, but I'm not against them. So good luck to you. Have fun. And, 3 or 4 medium machine guns in your army could maybe be quite a devastating option. So all the very best. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Richard. I'm sure our viewers have really appreciated your insights on getting the most out of MMG teams in bolt action. If you've got any questions for Richard, do drop them in the comments below, and one of us will be sure to get back to you soon. So that brings us to the end of another episode of Lessons from the Front. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy gaming!